Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the former Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio, how he has been given the largest and longest sentence for the January 6th situation. We'll share that in the latest with you. Also, let's talk about how there are a number of HBCU leaders that have decided to step down for various numbers of reasons. And guess what? There's a good number of those same leaders are women. What does that make? What kind of impact will that make on HBCU's landscape across the country? Later on, folks, we got to talk about why Black women are not being protected with this latest incident of a Black woman being assaulted by a brick. We're going to share that conversation. And I got something for you for trends, posts, and doing the most. So stay with us. This is all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. You ready to rock and roll? Then let's go. Folks, welcome back to the culture. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. And I want to give a big shout out to my online culture crew, man, that is just checking in from all around the country. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm always excited to reconnect with them each and every day, folks. And you could do the same thing. You could join us as we are streaming live on a number of platforms. You see that? Do you see this right down here at the bottom? That's where you can find us. We're streaming in a number of different places, including our home website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. We're also streaming on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, and we're also streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Plex TV. And we're streaming on your favorite social media. So we're on Facebook and on YouTube. And it is on YouTube, folks, under Roland Martin, where you can find us and be a part of the conversation as part of our online culture crew for the day. Big shout out to my legacy culture crew members, man, that are already checked in. Pastor Damon Bassett, good to see you. Hey, kings and queens. A man of God, my brother, thank you so much for checking in. It's always a pleasure to reconnect with you, bro. Cindy Dean, thank you so much. Deidre, I see you. And so many others are going to be checking in as well. So you can join us in the conversation right there on Roland Martin, on YouTube under Roland Martin. All right, folks, it is Wednesday. So you know what happens on Wednesday. That's right. You know what happens on Wednesday. We check in with my sister from another mother. She is the host of the Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube. She's also an attorney in the state of Florida, checking in all the way down from Miami. My sister Suzette Speaks is joining us, and I'm really, really excited to talk to her. Good afternoon, Suzette. How you feeling, sis?
Hey, Farajii, and good afternoon to the culture crew. Y'all won't see me in the chat today, but it's all love. Miami in the building. Can't wait for today's conversation.
We will send good tidings and all the energies and spirits and vibrations
Absolutely.
from the great Suzette Speaks. All right, Pauline, I see you. Hello, Pauline. Shalinda, thank you for checking in. Lori, good to see you. Anastasia, Tiana, thank you, sisters, for checking in. Let's jump right into this. First and foremost, former Proud Boy chairman Enrique Tarrio, who has been leading the charge, has officially been the number one guy for the wrong reason. He's been given the longest sentence, Suzette, for his involvement in the January 6th attack on the storming of the Capitol. 22 years. Wow. 22 years. Here's the latest from NBC News, folks. Take a look at this. This is, again, Enrique Tarrio. He was sentenced 22 years in federal prison yesterday afternoon following his convictions on a seditious conspiracy charge in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Looking at paragraph 2, Tarrio was one of 4 Proud Boys found guilty of sedition conspiracy in May. Federal prosecutors sought a sentence of 33 years in federal prison. U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly sentenced Tarrio's co-defendants to much lower terms than those sought by prosecutors. Last week, Joe Biggs was sentenced to 17 years, Zachary Rail to 15 years, Ethan Nordine to 18 years. Proud Boy Dominic Pizzola, the fifth defendant, was found not guilty of the top charge of sedition and conspiracy, but guilty of other charges. He was sentenced to 10 years. Wow. Suzette, first and foremost, do you think that this was justice? Do you think that this was appropriate? They were looking for 33. They ended up where he ended up getting 22. Do you feel like that is fair and just based on what he did?
Well, yes, I do believe that Enrique Tarrio, the leader, national leader of the Proud Boys, of course, Florida always have to be in it, from Miami, of Afro-Cuban descent, found himself in the middle of what was an overthrow attempt of the U.S. election, where President Joe Biden dutifully and duly won. And instead, he found himself as a head of a right-wing organization that made it its mission, not only on January 6th, but prior to January 6th, to impose this kind of right-wing fascist ideology, which has permanently changed the Republican Party, mind you. And it came to fruition on January 6th. Although he was not even in D.C. on that date, all of his acts as laid out by the prosecution led to over 200 members of the Proud Boys being on the steps of the Capitol on January 6th. They were at the head or of the spear, as the judge put it, and he is now paid or will be paying his debt to society for his actions in this attempt to overthrow a United States election. I looked at what his attorney said. They had asked for about 15 years. Prior to this, the other Proud Boy defendants had about 15 to 18 on average, but the range now is between 10, and he is now the highest defendant with this type of jail time for his sentence, for his conviction. So it's a loud and clear message by this U.S. district judge. He's sounded a little bit repentant during his statements during the sentencing. He didn't apologize for what he did, but he said he apologized for not doing more to deter what happened at the Capitol. He's always maintained that it was a spontaneous day of protest. But again, the prosecution was able to show this jury otherwise. And that's why all of them have so far been convicted. And he has now seen the stiffest penalty.
So this is going to open up the conversation in a very, very big way, because like I mentioned from this NBC News report, and I know we got to take a quick pause, but very quickly, Suzette, the number of people who are getting like these big sentences are now starting to come out, right? Like these Proud Boy members, people who are part of far right groups. Is this going to be the precedent for Merrick Garland and his team in the Department of Justice? Do you expect to see, or should we expect to see, more stiff penalties like this?
Well, it's up to the judge's discretion, right? They have like a table, a guideline that they can use based on the acts and how heinous they were and what they see fit. But yes, it is within the guidelines. He could have received over 3 decades. That's what the prosecution wanted. So I think for someone who is at the head of organizing this type of attack on our Capitol, it was justifiable. So I do think if there are others who remain out at large, they may, in fact, if brought to court, see similar sentences. But for him and the others that got 15 years, 18 years last week, it's because of the vital role they played in breaching the Capitol. Most of what you saw on your television during that fateful day that shocked the world was that the Proud Boys were at the front of breaking the glass, getting into the Capitol windows, pushing people and egging people on to go inside and disrupt the counting of our electoral college votes. So yes, for that type of behavior, I think it is quite justifiable. Again, these seditious acts, laws came about right after the Civil War. They haven't been used since, but this was a major breach of our United States government and our election system. So yes, I do think if others are tied to Proud Boys behavior on that day, they'll see these similar type of sentences.
All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Suzette, I want to share with you what some of our culture crew members are saying, because they're already seeing some major disparities even in the sentencing process of this. I'm going to share what I think Cindy, you brought it up. Shalinda, you brought it up. Folks, we're going to continue the conversation on the other side with my sister Suzette Speaks, host and TV host and attorney. And of course, with you. So join us in the chat right now. We're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin, and you could be a part of the culture crew for the day. Folks, stay with us. We still got a lot to talk about in this first hour of the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been talking about the latest sentencing of Proud Boys, the former Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio. He served as the chairman of the far-right group. He has officially been sentenced to 22 years in federal prison as a result of his involvement in the attack on the Capitol on January the 6th. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into this. Suzette, one of the things that people are saying right now is that he got the stiffest penalty because he's Cuban and he's Black.
Man,
so let me just share with you. I mean,
I'm not laughing about it because that's a serious allegation. I really do believe that he was the head of the snake, so to speak. You know, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. A lot of what he did, you know, was recorded. Although he, you know, hooked up with, you know, Stuart Rhodes from the Oath Keepers. They had that fateful meeting in an underground parking lot and recorded it. Recorded this because they thought they were being patriots, right? Or they just wanted to overthrow our election. A little bit of both. So that the fact that he got way more than Stuart Rhodes, I can see an argument being made as to, you know, they probably had similar roles or had equal culpability. But nonetheless, you know, he was the face. you know, this Enrique Tarrio was kind of like this mythical, again, a non-white figure that called himself a Proud Boy, you know, headed the chapter down here and eventually became like the national spokesperson, pictured with, you know, several strong, what could I call them, GOP leaders, if you will, or very popular GOP leaders, was legitimized during a 2020 debate when Donald Trump was asked about, you know, white supremacy and calling it out. And he told them to stand up, you know, stand back and stand by. And then their numbers doubled almost, you know, immediately thereafter. And so this kind of undertone that was underground at first, but then became overt because the president endorsed it. You know, he became like the poster boy for it. So I do see some of what, you know, is being said, but again, he was the head of the snake, if you will, in terms of the most publicly recognizable figure. So I think that worked against him. But then again, you know, melanated skin oftentimes sees, you know, different results. And I'm not saying that necessarily happened here, but I can understand why people will look at why is it that he's getting, you know, the most time so far of any January 6th defendant. But I do believe it's because he was the head of the conspiracy, if you will, and again, played such a prominent role in the media with regards to what took place. And even though, like I said, he wasn't there, he had laid the foundation, laid the groundwork, and activated this group of radicals. And it shows you that anybody of any color and any ethnicity can become radicalized. So I think that's part of why we see such a stiff penalty for him.
I would agree. Cindy, you said a Cuban got the most time for the leader of the Proud Boys. The white supremacy male of the January 6th riot got mostly slaps on the wrist. Cindy. Shalinda, you checked it. Although it's well-deserved, why the darkest one of the traitors get the longest sentence? Okay. Let's see. Let me see. Tiana, you checked in and said, I'm not shocked nor surprised. He got the most time. The problem is he forgot he was black. And McCole, my sister McCole Spicer, you said, as the saying goes, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I have no sympathy for the Proud Boys. That was a terroristic act that they committed on January 6th, 2021. And Deidre said he needs to get 22 years because he broke the law. Thank you, Deidre. And who else? Who else is checking in here? Yeah, well, that's not going to happen, Gail O'Brien. Anastasia, you said no one is talking about Clarence Thomas' wife. That chick was there and also part of this.
Jenny.
So here's the thing though, and I appreciate y'all sisters. A lot of ladies are commenting on this, but here's the thing. We're seeing this situation. Like, I don't think that people, and even for me, it took me a minute to kind of understand how wide this situation of January 6th really is, how big of an investigation it is, until I came across the numbers that they have arrested over 1,000 people related to January the 6th.
Yep.
And so trying to navigate through all of these people, determining what the charges should be, trying to figure it all out, you know what I'm saying, to process this whole thing. I think they did it. And I think this is what Merrick Garland, let me put what Merrick Garland put up, what he said. And Keenan, let's go to quote to Keenan at least. Take a look. This is what Merrick Garland said about this. He said, after Tarrio's speech at sentencing, that the Proud Boys have played a quote unquote central role in leading efforts to breach the Capitol. He said, over the past week, 4 members of the Proud Boys received sentences that reflect the danger their crimes pose to our democracy. Today, the leader of the Proud Boys, and this was yesterday, folks, today, the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, learned that the consequence of conspiring to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power was 22 years in federal prison. See what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, you're still committing a crime. And as a Black person, or if you are an Afro-Latino or Afro-Cuban individual, you know damn well you might get the stiffest penalty.
Well, It depends on how you identify, because people
And,
seem to
maybe,
forget.
and you know what? And maybe, and look, and a lot of times in this situation, in the far right community, those far right spaces, whether it's on Reddit or some other far right space, he might be considered a political prisoner. They're gonna massage the narrative and saying he's a soldier. He said, Enrique Tarrio said, "I'm not a soldier. I'm a general." Okay, so if you are a general, you're gonna get general consequences.
Yeah, in several interviews, I've been watching a lot, since this came down yesterday, of interviews from the past, and shout out to CNN's Sarah Seidlin, who did an interview right after January 6th with him, where he purported to say, he did not think that, this was something that was an overt act of sedition, that people were just caught up in the moment. That's what, again, his attorneys keep saying, that he was kind of like a misled patriot by the president and thought that he was doing something to fight for America. But also in that interview on CNN, you know what he said, Farajii? He said he did not believe that the election was stolen. So you have this type of, drumbeat that they use to, again, radicalize people. But there are folks, again, that's why I think it's very important that we kind of keep calling it out, that knew better and still, kept pushing the agenda forward, which was to keep President Trump in power, even though he lost the election against President Biden. So this idea that, he didn't know, or he wasn't involved with the people that he knew in Trump's circle, and how, comfortable he felt. And in those interviews, he also pointed out, like, people asked him, like, as a Black person, is basically what they were saying, how comfortable are you with being a part of the Proud Boys? And he kept saying, you're asking me, if I feel like I fit in. They make fun of everything. And I guess that included race and ethnicity, and from which he didn't take offense and didn't seem uncomfortable with it. But sometimes people feel empowered by being the only, or somehow being accepted in a group for being, an all-American, or something that they want to identify as. And it's super dangerous. And there are people who are vulnerable to this type of exploitation. Not to say that he didn't have, a decision-making ability, because he did. But I think especially earlier on, that's why the FBI keeps calling it this type of homegrown, terrorism, the most dangerous threat to our democracy. Because if you look at it, a person who is of Afro-Cuban descent from Miami, grew up in an Afro-Cuban home, he says he had ancestors that fought, against Castro and during the revolution and all this stuff, or against Bautista and all that kind of stuff. And he still was, prone to trying to find a group for which he could identify and be called a, quote, American patriot, and sought it in this far right, many call them radical, fascist, misogynist, racist, anti-Semitic, you name it. There's been reports, and according to the FBI, and according to, what the prosecutors laid out, that's what the Proud Boys have stood for. And even if he thinks he wasn't that, he's associated with all of that just by being in their midst. So yeah, I think, this is a gentleman who thought he was different, thought he maybe was an exception. And now, where's that great leader, Mr. Trump? Where are all the people that you literally sacrificed your life for in this cause, when you said on record that you did not believe that Mr. Trump truly won? It's quite shocking when you think about it. And
he's going to have a story.
Man, it's so stiff that I'm like, I hope it's worth it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Here's very quickly. I think part of this, one is that some of these far right groups are not their concern isn't about its race as it is about government. And I'm saying some of them have a problem with government and don't care about the race thing. Like, race thing is connected in some way, but it's not their priority. They're not formed because it's not like the KKK. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying some of these far right groups. And that might be the case. I don't know too much in terms of, the ins and outs of his story and how he got to that place. But that might be the case. You know what I'm saying? That they accepted him for whatever reason, but they allowed him to rise to a leadership role. You see what I'm saying? And I think that is something that should be studied and reviewed, because it's fascinating that you have a black man, an Afro-Cuban man who's running a far right, who's leading a far right group, a militia, right? And he's riding with Trump the way he did. But I don't think he's stupid. Here's the other thing. I don't think he wanted to come to a national prominence. I think the part of this militia thing is working under the radar. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, in the states that they're in, they're known. But once you start to expose, once you get that national prominence, it's like the same thing. If you're talking about, you know, street organizations, if you're talking about, you know, gangs that are run by Italians and all of those things, like once you get to a certain level and you start to get national prominence, it's like the whole Denzel Washington movie, American Gangster. It's like, I remember when he said that the moment he started to wear the mink to the boxing match, and people started to ask him questions like, who is this guy? How is he able to kind of be up front? Who is this guy? That's when everything fell apart.
Yeah.
That's when everything fell apart. I don't think like these guys kind of work in quote unquote secrecy, and that serves as a protection and a shield because they're under the radar. At this point, why would you, if you're committing all these crimes, why would you be like out there? It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
What you pointed out make, you know, perfect sense to me. Also, I think they have a united kind of feeling of grievance that somebody did something wrong to them. He has talked about in interviews how he's anti-immigrant, and I'm like, again, your people came here, sir.
Your people came on the ship, bro.
But it's almost like a dissociative identity. Again, like I am the exception. Those people come here illegally. I didn't. I am a different type of person. And again, we know that people exploit that type of lack of, you know, being grounded in oneself. So it makes perfect sense that they would utilize them in the way they did to say, you be the spokesperson. You're great at this. We're not racist. But again, these groups are kind of a mixture of all those factions, Farajii. There are some that are there that are so-called anti-government, small government, but then there are also those who mix in these anti-Semitic and racist tropes and misogynistic tropes all in. Like, you don't know who you identifying with, because he said, you know, he's not claiming certain people even now. Were they a member of the Proud Boys? But it's like a confluence of people who have shared grievance with this American, you know, society and this government. So here they are presenting themselves. Let's take up arms against the government. It's very dangerous, and a lot of people are vulnerable to this type of ideology and wanting to feel as if, again, I think about that day, how shocking it was looking at the film, and we're storming the Capitol, and like, you know, women out there, you know, they're saving democracy. They really thought in their mind that they had been wronged and that something illegal had taken place because Trump kept telling them he really won. And so, you know, part of it, you know, some of them have been using the defense that they were just going along with the direction of the president or the instruction of the president. But again, none of that mattered now. You're the only one up there now facing the music. So it's a powerful lesson. And I think it will be somewhat of a deterrent. We'll see for others in the future.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a little conversation about what's happening with HBCUs across the country as some of the major leaders of HBCUs are stepping down. And we'll talk a little bit about why they are stepping down. Most importantly, the impact of their resignations, determinations will have on the HBCU community. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Leaders at historically black colleges and universities, apparently, folks, in a new trend are stepping down at a rapid rate since the month of March. This is the latest coming from the Washington Post, who've done a study on the number of presidents leaving their positions at the nation's roughly 100 HBCUs as a result of sector-wide resignations, retirements, and terminations, folks. I want to share with you what came out of this or was said in this report from the Washington Post. Take a look at this here, folks, because this is very fascinating. There also has been a broader trend of presidents at predominantly white institutions stepping down. Forbes reported that several university presidents have announced their resignation or retirement in the past month. Many occurred in small, private, religiously associated universities like Lamont Owen College in Memphis and Philander Smith College in Little Rock. A handful of women are among those who have left their jobs, and there have been outspoken disputes about enrollment and funding. Now, take a look at this. Let's go into this process talking about the women that have left the role. Take a look, folks. Although women stepping down is not a new phenomenon, their reasons for leaving still merit investigation, according to Felicia Commodore, who serves as an associate professor of higher education at Old Dominion University. She said historically black colleges and institutions, often designate more women as presidents than the rest of higher education. She said, if this is a space where black women have probably the best shot at a college presidency, and they're not lasting for more than 3 to 5 years, what message is that sending to the pipeline of aspiring black women college presidents, particularly those who are interested in serving the HBCU sector? This is fascinating, folks, and we wanted to have a conversation about this because some of us may not even know that this is happening, but this is a growing trend, and this will make a huge impact on the HBCU, on the operations and on the future of HBCUs. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into Suzette. This is interesting, and I was kind of looking forward to see if this is like a national thing. Now this is coming out of the GRIO, but there doesn't seem to be much talk about this. This report came out of the GRIO and the Washington Post, excuse me. But there doesn't seem as much talk about this. We're talking about a lot of other things, but if you have presidents who are stepping down, and it's particularly Black women presidents who are stepping down from these HBCUs at this pace, then this is like a crisis brewing. Yeah. And I'm with Felicia Commodore on this, is that if this is supposed to be the safe space for Black women in particular, but this is the safe space for progressive thinking Black men and women, but they're only sticking around for 3 to 5 years, what's really going on? Retirements, resignations, terminations. Like, what is really going on with HBCU leadership?
Yeah, I mean, Farajii, this comes during a time when HBCUs are kind of having a moment, right? They've always been there, right? They've always been the backbone of educating the best and brightest among us here in the United States and beyond. But we have had kind of this renaissance in terms of the mainstream media paying attention to HBCUs, although those who have long respected the legacy that they have in our country and the importance of educating Black and white students, but more Black lawyers come from HBCUs than anywhere else. More Black doctors come from HBCUs than anywhere else, MBAs, etc. And then there are also HBCUs that help students who have been struggling through high school, who don't have proper, college preparatory classes, etc., still excel and live the college dream. So we have this trend that you've pointed out. When I look at it, first thing that came to mind was how much more difficult it is these days than it has been in the past to be a university president. And here's what I'm thinking. Because of all of the politics that now goes into this job, this used to be considered a quite cushy, if you will, job, Farajii. Yes, you had to do fundraising. Yes, you always have to be interacting with your faculty and your students, et cetera, et cetera. But these jobs have become far more political and politicized by a lot of the states, right? Some of them are run by, the state governments. Some are private. But there are a lot more issues that are on the table that HBCUs uniquely have to deal with when it comes to funding being one of the larger ones, as well as just being able to maintain good relationship with your governing board, with your faculty. It is almost like being a politician, a statewide elected politician, because you have so many factions and facets to deal with, so that if they are not becoming properly compensated, properly supported, to your point, we're losing a wonderful pipeline of leadership. I know for a fact, there are so many of my friends circle, even to speak anecdotally, that got their start as professors, as deans at HBCU colleges. So when you can't get in the door because the network won't allow you necessarily in the door off rip when it comes to predominantly white institutions, PWIs, many of us get our training grounds at HBCU. So if we are having this kind of fluctuation in leadership, I've seen it even down south here in Miami, St. Thomas Law, they just had a new dean. She doesn't come from academia. I'm not criticizing, but I'm looking at so many people who have left as a result and others who are now, coming in the door as a result. There's a lot of politics, Farajii. But we definitely.
Hey, Suzette, yes. How much you want to bet? Are we on the culture on the Black Star Network?
Yes, well, go ahead, sir.
How much you want to bet? It's so political because unfortunately, some Black people want to take advantage, use, abuse, mistreat other Black people in Black spaces. How much you want to bet? That's part of the reason why. And I mean, nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to be like, you see what I'm saying? Let me just say why. Let me just I mean, I've worked at Morgan State University in Baltimore for many years, right? And one of the things, and I know I'm about to get in trouble, well, here's the thing. One of the things that we don't often talk about is the culture in Black institutions.
Mm.
There's a certain reason why some of us are turned off from working for Black people in Black spaces and Black institutions. So when you have Black people, I mean, look, in my understanding, like in Baltimore, we had Morgan, we had Coppin, there's Bowie. When you got Black people, these aren't stupid Black people. These are highly educated, critical thinkers who bring a lot of ideas. And sometimes in Black spaces, you got the old against the young. Sometimes in Black spaces, you got progressive ideas and progressive thinking versus this is how we used to do it. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes in Black spaces, you got younger people who come into roles of positions of power and influence. And then you got older people who want to stand and be gatekeepers.
My goodness.
You see what I'm saying? So when you got all these dynamics at play, if you have a Black woman, and you got to remember, like some of these sisters who are coming to these HBCUs, even the brothers, right? This might be a second or third career. They might have worked in a lot of other spaces, but then they said, you know what? In my final years, I think I'm gonna just, I'm gonna do something to give back to make sure that I give back to the people and to my community. And man, it could be hellish. It really can be hellish, man. And it's so sad because most of the time, like back in the day, y'all remember a lot of these presidents, especially of our HBCUs, man, it would be like statues. That's how long they would be there. You know what I mean? 20, 30 years. And buildings are named after them and all of that good stuff. But now, I bet you, I'm telling you, I bet you, it's probably a lot of the politics. The board, because some of these schools are ran by boards, right? You have the faculty. You might put a Black person as the figurehead in there, but then they really don't have no power. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics at play. I bet you a lot of that is stuff. And look, if I'm 50, 60 years old, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to work out the final few years of my life, and you got to deal with all this BS from your own people. You rather just take the L and be like, hey, man, I tried my best. This is a labor of love, but I'm getting the hell up out of here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we know goes right, let's put it out there, when it comes to HBCUs. But we know there's also, and I'm thinking even in the last couple of years when it has come to athletics and, what we saw as national headlines with, Ed Reed, let's go Miami, with Deion Sanders and what he talked about when it came to his pay and distribution of assets and things like this, and things that were benefiting the students off of his name, but the schools, not implicating anybody. This is, again, going off of what has been alleged. None of this we are going to say for a fact, but it's been alleged by one side that, you trying to benefit off of what I bring to the school and then not necessarily, kind of reciprocate back to me some of what we need in terms of facilities, what we need in terms of, student support and things of this nature. So there are some, I think, cultural and institutionalized ways of thinking that we definitely should challenge and should question as appropriate, whether or not, again, there are leaders that are willing to do, the very difficult work of kind of shifting the direction of these big ships, right? It takes a long time. It takes patience. And oftentimes you get pushback for people who, again, ran the, financial aid department for 40 years. Well, ma'am, I know you ran the financial aid department for 40 years, but we got, new perspectives and new technology and things that we want to bring.
I'm telling you,
new buildings that we need to build for our students and the top facilities that should be offered. It is difficult sometimes because sometimes we get very comfortable with status quo. And I agree with you, if there are people that are coming out of the private sector people who have had their established careers, got their money, so to speak,
Come on.
are looking to come back and say, God, I want to pour into this next generation. I'm going to show, what I've learned and share what I've learned. Oftentimes there are not environments that are welcoming or conducive to this type of, innovative leadership. So we have to question ourselves lovingly, supportive of the mission, right? And instead of being siloed, the board versus the president, and I got to be fighting you for, certain decision making, et cetera. I mean, there should be, of course, this check and balance, but I think there's a lot more that probably has contributed to this kind of turnover that we really need to pay attention to, so we can start to be critical of what's going on and address it, and make sure we're keeping good leadership there at our HBCUs.
And that's what it is. That's what it is. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation. But I'm telling you, Suzette, there's something underneath all of this. Resignations, retirement. People say they're going into retirement, but you work 3 years and you say, all right, I'm going to retire.
Get tired.
You get tired. What are you tired from? You're tired from the bullshit. You're tired from the BS. You feel it. Exactly. Like seriously, you're tired from the old ways. I bet you, if we had a candid conversation with some of these presidents, especially the sisters, they probably give us some stories to tell. Because I've been around Black media, Black institutions, Black folks in leadership so long that I recognize, like, man, sometimes we do the Black churches, everything, Black civic organizations and nonprofit organizations. We can cause the most damage to ourselves. This ain't about no white man. This is about us, how we treat each other. And sometimes when we come into the door and we get all fresh in ideas, and next thing you know, somebody is telling us, somebody from our community is telling us, you can't do that. You can't do that. Ain't nobody want that. You can't do this. And you're like, well, I'm trying
I've been on boards where they telling me, you're the neophyte on the board. I was like, what?
Right.
I'm sorry.
And was that and who said that to you?
That was to say, stay in your place and follow what I'm doing. Ma'am, that's not why they put me on the board, right?
That's not why we put me on the board. That's not. Hey, look, I gotta take a quick pause.
Go ahead. Break.
We got to break. Look, stay with us, folks, to continue the conversation about this growing trend of HBCU leaders stepping down. Crew, I want to get your take on this. What do you think is really going on beyond what we have, what's been reported in the press? Is it just about terminations, resignations, and retirements, or is there something brewing and there's a serious crisis evolving among HBCUs? Let's talk about it on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are streaming live right now on YouTube under Roland Martin. Make sure you join us in the chat there. That's where you find our beloved Culture Crew community, where you can join us and share your thoughts and post your questions, and most importantly, be a part of the conversations that we're having right here on air. So make sure you join us on YouTube under Roland Martin, and let's have a conversation. Big shout out to all of our Culture Crew members on Facebook as well. folks are checking in from all over there. So thank you so much for doing so. And of course, you can continue to watch us on blackstarnetwork.com, Amazon News on your Fire TV, Plex TV, and other streaming services as we continue to expand this movement for digital media. We've been talking about this latest phenomenon, this trend of HBCU leaders stepping down, where there are a number of women leaders who are walking away from historic Black colleges and universities all across the country, and it's creating a trend. Now, this trend is also happening in white establishments, predominantly white colleges and institutions, PWIs. It is also happening there, and many people are saying that this is a sign that the landscape in the industry for higher education is changing dramatically when you have major professionals, folks who are bringing a ton of skills and talents to the table, and yet within a 3 to 5 year period, they're walking away to pursue other things. Some of them are pursuing other ventures, some of them are simply retiring, and some of them are just getting fired. So we've been talking about this dynamic. More importantly, like, what does this mean and what kind of impact this will have on HBCUs as we move further into the future? My sister Suzette Speaks is with me, folks. As always, I'm happy to have my sister. Suzette, we're talking about this because it's the culture, it's the Black Star Network, it's Black media, this is what we do. And we got to get to the crux of this. I don't think it's just like, oh, okay. If this was a regular situation, then it wouldn't be making news the way it's making news. But because we're seeing that they're saying this is a trend in, like I said, among PWIs, but now also among HBCUs. See, HBCUs is different because unlike PWIs, they're a little bit further along in terms of alumni support, getting the endowments and investments that they need. Some of these PWIs are supported by the state in a much, much bigger capacity. We can't afford to lose talent on the HBCU side. So if I don't care if 2 presidents step down since the month of March, if you are only talking about 100 schools and 2 or 3 presidents are stepping down and people are getting fired and people, that's a crisis. That's a situation where you got to say, wait, what's going on? That's a situation where Black America, as much as we love to talk about the importance of HBCUs, that's a situation where Black America has to say, whoa. What's going on? Because we're the stakeholders. And how are we the stakeholders? Your children.
Absolutely.
Our future.
Absolutely.
So anytime we can, and I hope people understand that you don't have to, quote unquote, be on the board to say what you need to say. If you come to your HBCU president, whether you are a graduate of an HBCU or your family member or your child goes to an HBCU, you have every right to voice your concern and say and ask questions and be involved in making sure that HBCU wins. You have every single right. You don't have to. Now, you might be like, well, I didn't pay no money. Doesn't matter. You gave up the most precious thing you can give. If your child is there, then that's your child. If you have dedicated your time, volunteered, then that's your time. Nah, something is happening.
Yeah.
Something is really happening. The unfortunate part about it, very quickly, Suzette, is that because it's HBCUs, it has this kind of quote unquote sacred culture. So when we talk about HBCUs, some of us get a little nervous because we don't want to let the skeletons out the closet. But
it's very difficult because I think as a culture, we are very, protective of our own, as we should be. So again, with even in this context and this conversation, our intent is to build up, right? Our intent is to improve and to make sure we have the longevity we need from leaders in order to make sure our training grounds, right? The preeminent training grounds of our next generation around our country are, adequately receiving, the funding and the support that they need. For any company, a CEO that only lasts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, leaves a large hole. It's very difficult to hire somebody. And, while they're not there, the interim has all these issues and things that they kind of can do and kind of can't do at the same time. And really what happens is the students suffer. And that's the sad part. So we do have to raise up as well as admonish in love, right? We do have to protect as well as to kind of on a case by case basis, look at what happened at each of these institutions. What did all the different parties have to say, right? What did the board say? What did that individual say, the former president? What did the students say? Whose needs were or were not met, so that we can hopefully, in the selection process, see various approaches that can improve the likelihood that we will have longevity in the leadership. There's a reason why in PWIs, and I went to PWI for undergrad as well as law school, they have presidents for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, as you stated, because there's something about that longevity that allows for someone to kind of see out the vision, right? And to have the historical context and the respect of their faculty, of their, board, to say, I know what I'm doing. Follow me. Here's the vision that you can buy into and that you can believe in. But when you have this quick turnover, it makes it so much harder for the next person, because it's almost like you're doing cleanup for the last person, trying to prove that you're not them.
Come on, Suzette.
And at the same time, you got to be making long-term decisions on facilities, on investments, and all kinds of things, on how you're going to fundraise and how you're going to build new buildings, right? And things that have, we've seen some schools, they look the same for the last 50 years. That ain't right. Right. So yes, there's underfunding. Yes, there's other challenges. But I think when it comes to leadership, we need to do kind of like a case by case analysis and look at what's happening and why, and see if we can address it in love, but with the students in mind, and with the building of like a brighter, more innovative campus in mind.
Hey, you know what? That's the exact word that came to my mind as I'm listening to you, Suzette. Innovation. There's a difference between being a manager and an innovator. There's a difference, right? I'm thinking about Dr. David Wilson of Morgan State University. Under his tenure so far, that man has done more. I mean, he has taken Morgan State University to the next level, getting it designated as a national, as a historic site, all of the buildings, adding new buildings. They just opened up the medical school, making advancements, right? And there are HBCUs that are doing that type of work all in within the community, HBCU community. But then you still have, like you said, there's some other HBCUs that still operate like it's the 1960s and 70s. Old ass buildings. We talked about it on this show. His brother Roland's talked about it. Like, they need funding, because you got to ask yourself the question, like, what's happening with the resources and all of those things? And I don't think it's crazy to bring up these questions. I think that if you ask any question in the right spirit, then you can do so. But I think that it's indicative of where we are, that in 2023, students are maybe suffering from everything from bad infrastructure to mishandling of money in 2023. And HBCUs most of these HBCUs, I could be wrong, but Suzette, I don't see no white faces running HBCUs.
There are some white people in the administration, but not necessarily.
They're in the administration.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm saying there aren't white presidents.
Can't name one, but I don't think so. Yeah, you're right.
That's my point. That's all I'm saying. Of course, in the administration, yeah, obviously, right? But in terms of the overall vision and leadership, that falls on the president. Raising money, that falls on the president. You see what I'm saying? You got to be not only the president, you got to be the chief executive officer. You have to be the #1 cheerleader. You have to be the HBCU advocate. I mean, there are a dozen roles that you got to play in that leadership position. Let me share what the crew is saying, because the crew is going off right now, Suzette.
I can bet. I can't read comments.
The crew is going off. Benny Hill, you said administration, chancellors, directors, board members tap in, help us with some perspective. Absolutely. I would love to hear what folks got to say on this. Tiana, you said, thank you, Benny. Tiana, you said, I've worked at community college for 24 years, and I completely understand what those HBCUs are going through with the turnover. 24 years.
Yeah.
24 years. And Tiana, I would love to kind of get a little take from you, what you have seen in that 24 years. Cindy V, you said maybe since prime time in coaching and VP Harris, these colleges are in the spotlight. The scope of HBCUs is much greater. It's more criticism. It's more political. It's always about money. But is that a bad thing when we're trying to grow something?
No, I agree with her. They've been in the spotlight, you know, and now more than ever, again, as she said, with Kamala Harris, with Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, Felicia Rashad, Diddy, whoever else. Thank God for HBCUs. But we're seeing much more of a spotlight, and then with more spotlight comes more scrutiny. So yeah.
Hey, look, you brought up Felicia Rashad.
Where people are coming to figure out.
You brought up Felicia Rashad. What happened there? She stepped down.
Yeah.
She took over the college.
Because the rules that are given to you, what you think you're able to do and what the confines of academia sometimes places on you, it's like two different things. So you think, okay, I can be the dean of the School of Arts at Howard and do certain things. No, again, it's very political. It's how you balance the interest of what your president, your faculty want, your students need, the money and budgets that you have available to you. It's very tricky. And again, it takes a very skilled leader to do what a lot of our administrators do across, HBCU campuses. There are people that are getting it right. Let's just point that out. As you stated,
absolutely.
There are some blueprints that we're like, yes, I love it. And it shows what can be done. But I would agree with Cindy that, the greater scrutiny now is showing maybe where there are some areas of improvement that we need. And again, if you can't retain good leadership, it doesn't bode well for anybody within the ecosystem. So we got to figure out what's going on and really do an analysis of why, we're seeing the trend not only widely in the PWI kind of landscape, but specifically among HBCUs.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick pause. But Willie, I want to bring up the point that you made. Willie Frazier, my brother, you said this could be a result of legislatures trying to dictate education. If you're being pressured to teach lies and discriminate against diverse people who enter college, it will probably make you quit. The outside influence.
Yeah. Good observation as well.
That's an excellent assessment but see, here's the thing. Here's the buffer for this very, very quickly to what Brother Willie is saying. And I think he's spot on with this. The buffer is if you're getting that type of pressure from the state for curriculum or funding or anything, what is your board supposed to do? If you got the president that's on the ground, right, in the trenches, connecting with the students, building relationships, then what the hell is the board supposed to be doing? Or the governing body of folks who help to hire the president in some cases, and what are they supposed to do? The board is supposed to stave off that type of statewide pressure. But if the board is bought and paid for by the state, and then you got black, y'all, come on, man. If the board is weak, and then all the pressure comes down on the president ain't gonna feel like they're being supported.
Or if the president
is going to the say it again, Suzette.
I said if the board is inexperienced as well.
If the board is inexperienced, if the board is weak, if that governing body of people capitulate under the pressure of the state, like, we should be doing this and we should, and then you have a strong black woman, a strong brother who comes in and is like, no, man, in spite of all of these culture wars, we got to do it this way. And the board like, no, we should try to do it like this because this is how the board can do, because this is the way we gonna get money. So now you compromise the mission for a few dollars. Look, we got to take another quick pause, y'all. When we come back, let's continue the conversation, get some final remarks. And we got to talk about that situation with the black woman being assaulted by a brick. Man, oh man, more hot conversation on the way. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We're continuing the conversation about the growing trend of HBCU leaders stepping down after a very short period of time of being in the role and in the helm of leadership for historically Black colleges and universities. And it's creating a national concern about what's going on with HBCUs. Now, again, this is happening in predominantly white institutions as well. But they may have a system in place to figure out how they can stop the hemorrhaging of talent. And we got to ask and we got to know, and I'm going to bring my sister Suzette back into this, to the frame for this. Suzette, that's, I think this is going to be the big question. Like, how do you stop the hemorrhaging of talent from leaving HBCUs, right? How do you make it appealing in this moment? Cultural moment, political moment, financial moment. How do you bring people on that's going to stick around for the long haul, at least for the next 5 years? You cannot make you really can't make a legacy, create a legacy or make any real dent in 3 to 5 years as an HBCU.
Absolutely.
You got to stick around for 10 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why you typically have seen in the past that type of tenure where people, stay for a good decade or more so that their vision can come to fruition. I would say, to answer your question, I think we have to have both allies from without and within involved in presidential searches. I know, there has been some controversy with some schools between the alumni associations and the board and the current board, et cetera, but I think input from all stakeholders, not just stakeholders within the university, but also outsiders, can bring new, fresh perspective on how to find and to also increase the pool of potential candidates for schools. I think there are people, if they, knew how supportive those who are inside the institutions are, would consider, stepping into these roles and utilizing some of their leadership from corporate America and other places in kind of this academic setting. But I do think it has to be kind of everyone who's impacted and also sees the need for this type of innovative leadership. I think sometimes within institutions, we can become, a little bit entrenched. And not to say that's an only HBCU problem. That can be in any school, anywhere, any institution. People can get so used to doing things the way they've always done them, that they do not want to change and they don't want to let go of, certain power or perceived power that they have at the institution. So they kind of, stonewall, and they make it very difficult and gatekeep, as you said. So I think especially when you see some things happening from the inside, maybe an outside fresh view from folks who are, maybe outside advisory panels or alumni panels, and people who can help, bring new, fresh perspective to why or why not the last person did not work out is important. Because again, the longevity piece is what helps the institution move forward and helps that leader to fully see their vision materialize. If not, we're treading water, and then we're also losing ground because there are activities and decisions that can't be made by interim people. So I hope that they will utilize all the different stakeholders that they have available to them to start to, go back to the drawing board and really analyze what is being said by the person who is leaving, as well as those who they help to lead.
Here's the great concern that I have. And Lori Parks, Lori, you brought up something that, and I'm glad you did, Lori, because my concern is if these schools are seeing a hemorrhaging of good talent walking away, if schools are losing this, if schools are in financial crisis, if schools are finding that they're just out there, then the state may use these reasons to justify some level of quote unquote takeover. Or even worse, Lori, you said it. You said, just my opinion, with all the problems that some of these HBCUs are having, financial major crisis, even Brother Roland been on this issue, I'm seeing some of them closing up, shutting down.
Which is not what we need.
That's what, and that's exactly it, Suzette. At the end of the day, these states that in a lot of HBCUs, I don't say a lot, but some of these HBCUs are in Republican-controlled states. And they will attempt to try to shut down some of these, especially in the South. You know what I mean? Whether you're talking about Georgia or Alabama or some other state that's Republican controlled, Texas. It's easy for these Republican folks to say, oh, you know what? The school is quote unquote underperforming. The school is misappropriating funds, or there's a real financial support that's lacking. The leadership is not there. In this day and time where we're questioning whether Black people and their history and their struggle is important, maybe we should just shut this thing down.
That's why it's so important that we work together to find a solution internally. Because again, this is not, out of the realm of possibility for people who are trying to see these type of institutions kind of shut down anyway, to now say, hey, let's take this opportunity to roll back the state support or the funding or whatever other ways they can control. Either accreditation is what I was thinking about, and things where people come out with degrees that are not accredited. It's fundamentally, important that we really look at why and how we can help support them. Yes, the federal government does, a certain amount. Yes, the state government does a certain amount. But again, our own mindset of that, self-sufficiency needs to come into play. While we do expect the same support and hopefully increased support for those schools who have not received adequate, state funds, or for private schools. I know it can be, through the loan programs, et cetera, making sure they are all accessible grant programs and loans, federal loan programs to the students that attend some of these private schools. But yeah, it comes back down to we have to be our own solution, and we have to think critically, although, again, no one wants to be overly critical of our own institutions, but we have to be honest when it comes to these type of discussions so that we can see improvement, and that we have people who are in environments that make them want to stay, right? And again, a case by case basis, I would have to look at each and every one of why these folks, left in these scenarios, but there is a pattern, right? There is a trend.
Huge pattern.
So we got to make sure, is it everybody? Or what are we doing, and can we stave it off so it doesn't, continue to contaminate other campuses or other potential leaders? and dissuade them from coming to these campuses. We need good, innovative leadership no matter what. And we have to actually provide our own solutions to some of these issues and see if we can be a welcoming place. And I say we because I consider myself, a product of why, Black leaders who come from HBCUs are just a part of the fabric of what has changed America throughout these last centuries.
We know that.
So
we know that.
We look at the
I know
legacy,
that.
but we have to continue to kind of, again, put that at the forefront of why we do what we do and take away ego, take away, this kind of infighting sometimes that occurs. And not to say that every HBCU is not like this, guys, but we're just talking about these select, campuses where we have seen this turnover. We got to analyze for real what happened and try to, course correct as needed.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can pull up very quickly which HBCUs, because in this report it talks about which HBCUs have seen some of the recent departures. Let me just pull this up very quickly. They said in April.
Call the names, huh? Calling names, so we can correct the record. Let's talk about who all is on this list. Okay. If you want to.
There were a couple of things. They did a research by the American Council on Education. It revealed that college presidents who responded had been in their positions at that time for an average of 8.5 years in 2006. So 8.5 years was like the average back in 17 years ago. The average decreased to 5.9 years, or pretty much 6 years in 2022. So that's research showing that the market, the life expectancy, right? The life expectancy of college presidents has actually declined from about 9 years, or like probably close to 10 years, as you mentioned, Suzette. You know, being around for a decade to shaving off to about 6 years.
Wow, interesting.
According to research by the Center for the Study of HBCUs, the average tenure of recently departed presidents of HBCUs is 2.1 years, less than half of the typical 4.5-year contract offered to presidents in the industry.
Wow. That's disturbing. That's a little disturbing. Because what can someone do in 2 years? And I don't know.
So we're not even, we hitting half of the mark. That means that whatever is happening.
You get to know all your faculty names, you out to do.
Okay, thank you for coming, Michelle. I appreciate you. Oh, you know what, Michelle?
You know everything there is to know.
I'm
now.
gone.
Right? Like, what are we doing?
I'm gone, Michelle. It was so good. We just had lunch yesterday. Yeah, girl.
Just got to know everybody's name.
For...
Now you going, no. I think there might be, there's some concern possibly, just to play devil's advocate, that, people are jealous of these type of cushy, quote unquote, jobs and what they pay. And there may be some sentiment, not saying in these cases, but overall about, why they got to make this much, or how, come they get this benefit or that perk or that, it's a big responsibility. It's a huge, multifaceted job. And for people who are coming out of private sector jobs that make even more than this, the salary and the compensation, I wonder if that plays any role into why people are saying, you got to go, or if it's purely conduct and or maybe like, not meeting of the minds in terms of the board, and et cetera. I'm just curious. I don't know enough about it, but I'm curious about it.
All right, let me just share this very quickly. I know we got to take our next pause. In April, according to the GRIO, the Mississippi Institution of Higher Learning Board of Trustees unanimously voted to fire Felicia Nave, a Black woman who served as the president of Alcorn State University since 2019. The board has yet to speak about the reasons for firing Nave, but she had received requests for resignation from students and alumni due to complaints about enrollment numbers and poor communication. The former president is one of many female HBCU presidents to leave their positions in the past year. The list also includes Carmen Walters at Tougaloo College in Mississippi, Vernell Bennett Fairs at Lemoyne Owen, and Leisha Crumpton Young at Texas Southern University in Houston. Enrollment. You see, enrollment numbers and poor communication. Let me just we of course we don't know all the ins and outs for Miss Felicia Nave. Enrollment numbers and poor communication. It takes a minute to turn that ship around. She was there from 2019. This is 2023, so she was there for 4 years. I don't know what could have happened. I hope it's not a situation where she got into the position and then she had to do all of this house cleaning, right, from the previous administration. And then 2 years in, she finally got her footing. And then they're like, all right, we got to let you go because you got unrealistic expectations to meet for enrollment. Now, I don't know what the part could be for poor communication. I don't know. Maybe she was just a terrible leader that didn't talk to her staff and her personnel. I don't know. But I think we should ask for some level of transparency that and I'm saying for us as Black America, we should ask for some level of transparency. If you're going to, Lamar Owen is a major college. All of these are major colleges. TSU in Houston, that's a major Black HBCU.
Yeah.
So there should be, it shouldn't just be like we just had to let them go.
And no reason why. No reason why? No, that's weird.
We need transparency. So we're gonna keep looking at this situation, but I think that it's important that we recognize that this situation is happening. Things are happening. Let's see how this school year goes, right? You see that, like, as we get closer to them, because I know stuff is going to come up over the next few months as we get further along in a year. But this is a real problem. This is a very real problem that not HBCUs, not alumni, but that Black America is going to have to figure out how to solve. There it is. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the Black woman who was assaulted by a brick and why it seems like the protection of Black women still seems to be a problem within our community. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Wanted to spend some time talking about this this online case where a black woman was assaulted by a brick by another black man. And as this sister said, no one came to her rescue. This is the situation that happened just a couple of days ago. And it was a very disturbing situation because the sister went on to her social media page, and it was picked up by the Shade Room and other sites. But the sister went on to her own social media page to just moments afterwards. This is the sis right here talking about the fact, and you can see her face. Man, oh man. I don't know, King Kingdom, can we, I don't know if we have any sound that we can put up on here, but this sister was assaulted by a black man. And it has made national news. The crazy part about this whole story is not just the fact that she was assaulted by a black man with a brick, but that other black men were standing around and no one intervened. I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into here, back into the frame here. This I heard this about the story, maybe like, just over the weekend, over Memorial Day, over the Labor Day weekend. And it pissed me off. Now, there are some other elements to this story, right? Because there are some folks that actually, we heard about this story, but then I saw on social media, on Twitter, X, and some of the other social media spaces where people have found video of this same sister going around slapping people. But it wasn't I could tell that this was not her video of slapping. I saw two videos, one of her slapping a younger white male and then the other one slapping an older white male. But it didn't seem like this was a violent interaction. It seemed like it was a skit. It seemed like it was something that was planned. But this situation here does not warrant, even though she did a video like that, does not warrant a person getting hit by a brick, Suzette, in the face that could have literally killed her. And it certainly did not warrant for her to be assaulted in this manner and no one steps in.
Yeah, Farajii, I too saw the viral post that was on the Shade Room and everywhere on social media featuring this young lady, and it really, I had an emotional reaction to it, of course, like most of those who watched it. It was shocking to see someone, posting from the hospital, face swole up, as she alleges that she refused to give man, it looked like they were in the club or some kind of, nightclub scene where, a person called or sought to get her phone number. And she said, no, that's what she gave as far as her account as to what happened allegedly. And that she therefore, received a brick to the face by this individual, and that there were other men that were present that she, said did nothing, that they stood around, didn't defend her, etc. So I think there are a couple lessons from this, Farajii, and messages that we can kind of, take away. And I don't think we can play this down, Farajii, because I think they will flag it on YouTube as belonging to somebody else. But when I saw this, again, like most people, we had this kind of visceral reaction as to how dare this person, the perpetrator allegedly, do something so heinous. And again, we have seen this in many instances where there are women who are the victim of violence, specifically Black women, and it seems as if it's taken with the most casual grain of salt that anyone could offer, as if our bodies, our beings are not as worthy of protection and solidarity as other, specifically speaking, women. In this case, I think there are some macro and some micro lessons, global lessons that we can say that, this helps to bring awareness to, again, this sad state of misogynoir that has become a part of, I think, American politics. How, people who are very involved, the Squad, for example, leaders who are Black women, we talked about Fani Willis, and we've talked about Letitia James, and those women who have had an added layer of, vitriol that is not just based on their, job, but on who they are as people, right? Their womanhood, their Blackness, and the tone is often anti-Black, and how that has, added this new, I guess, low to American politics. But I also want to look at the facts of this case. And again, there are so many parts that are moving still, because this is now, becoming a much more known individual. Now, again, there's nothing about this case, let me be clear, that would justify anybody putting a brick on, this level, throwing it at somebody's head, so that you see like this type of, injury brought onto somebody. Bodily harm is never okay, and violence against women is never okay. I have also been looking, trying to get some more context as to, can I believe that there are men that just stood around and did nothing? There are a couple of outlets that are reporting, and these are just allegations. Again, this is not to justify, but this is just to also put out more information than what is available in this initial, account that she gave. There's a young man who put up a Instagram video that has been commented on, and I got it out of, and I can actually, my phone is what I'm using here, but I can pull up his name so you could see it. A YouTube video that talks about a gentleman who claims he was there that night, who claims he was one of these so-called bystanders, and says that this young lady, in fact, according to him, this is all allegation, was a, quote, troublemaker, or, quote, may have instigated some of what transpired. I don't know that's what happened. This is one individual who was also there, who claims to have been there, let's say, and said that this person has had a problematic past in terms of behavior. I am not here to defend, or deny or any of that, but I'm offering it as additional pieces to this contextual puzzle that may underline, for this specific case, what happened and what actually transpired. I think we need more information. I don't think we have all the facts. As I told you, I thought, I have to look deeper into this, Farajii. This bothered me so greatly to see this transpire. Nonetheless, it would not warrant this level of if you want to call it, violence or retaliation or any of that. If your life is not in danger, what are we doing? So no matter what, it would not have been appropriate. The piece I'm really curious about as to why, if it is true how she kind of brought the story forward, that people did not intervene. I'm like, I can't believe humanity has gotten that low. Like, I can't believe, I have to really understand what happened. That was just one account. Again, it's unverified. I'm just putting it out there as another layer to this specific case. But nonetheless, the message is still very clear that we have an issue in our society with, protecting of women. And again, in this specific case, it might not be the textbook case that we want to use, depending on what perhaps was her behavior involved in seeing this unfold. Nonetheless, I do think it is a good conversation starter when it comes to talking about, what it means to have solidarity from Black men for situations that do warrant, equal protection, if you will, and sometimes intervention by brothers. And we can still talk about it again from that lens.
And here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. I see brothers, unfortunately, trying to play detective instead of playing protector. You see what I'm saying? If this was your look, if any of us have daughters, nieces, a woman, a young woman in our lives that we care and love and are responsible for, and she, regardless of if she instigated, let me just put this up, because this is I think we need to start with a point blank like foundation, regardless of what she's instigated. Okay, she was talking bad about somebody. Keenan, show the video again. Y'all, I want y'all to see this. This isn't not just a he say, she say. She didn't get this bump on her face from hitting herself. What are we talking about here? And I'm talking to the men. What are we talking about? Like, what did she do? And what really happened? Look at her face. It's real simple. You deal with all of that other stuff after the fact. You don't let me play detective, because if that was your daughter, I'm not asking questions first and then going into action. Come on, man. Like this is exactly why black women, and look, the sad part is I was reading the comments on this situation. This sister's really in pain. I was reading the comments on the situation, and I saw one sister, she posted this on Instagram. She said, black women, just know that we are on our own. Black men don't care about us anymore. And that hurt me. That hurt me as a man, as a black man, as a father of a daughter. That hurt. That we get to this point and sisters are saying we on our own. I don't care about the details. I'm serious. I really don't care. I don't care if she did this as a skit. She was going around. This sister got hit in the face by a brick, y'all. If that was your daughter, say if your daughter, your niece, your granddaughter started something and a dude took a brick and smacked her across the head. Maybe she said something and she come home looking like that. What you gonna say? Well, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done what you did. You would be the worst father, uncle, grandfather in the world. No.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I don't think it excuses any of.
No, I know you're not saying that, Suzanne.
But I'm putting out there what the internet is saying, because I think there is always more to the story when we see it, and I don't think it's fair to put all black men in one box.
Oh wait, let me just.
And I know that you weren't, Farajii.
No, I know that's what I'm saying. But
and I want us to be very careful when we see black kind of viral behavior. We say black people A or black people B.
Right.
It's not all black people.
It's not all black people. And you don't like my music. You say, I do care about the details. What if she physically assaulted someone first? Did she assault them with a brick? So you get slapped. Somebody slaps you, and then you pick up a brick, and you could damn near kill a person. So that makes sense to you. You don't like my music. Come on, man. Come on. Man, come on. Think about that. I don't care if she assaulted you first. Her hand and a brick are two different weapons. Somebody slaps you in the face, you can walk away. Somebody put a brick to your face, you may not walk away at all. So this is the type of stuff. You see what I'm saying? Like now we get into this micro, like, but what happened first? Who would she say? What she do? And who said this? I think one of our another crew members said this. Oh man, I know we pressed for time. But someone else said, making a point that the way we are approaching this, trying to see what her past action, what she could have done to instigate the situation, is like a woman wearing a certain type of dress and she gets raped.
Understood.
Do we say that that's her fault that she got raped? That's a slippery slope, man. That's I'm gonna tell you that's a very slippery slope. I don't care about the internet chat. I really don't care. I don't care about, because I know for me, again, this strikes home just like it struck home for you too, Suzette. If something happened to Suzette, and God forbid it's something that does happen to her, I don't care which Suzette is. I don't care if she's drunk. I don't care if you partying, you. I don't care. Something happened to my sister. No, bro. No. We whipping ass. You gotta address that. You gotta address that. See, if we get into that space, then you just already showing your weakness as a man, as a protector, as you weak. You weak, and you just say that. Just say that. You weak.
No matter, and I get your point as being no matter what precipitated this event, we'll call it that, there is no justification of that disproportionate reaction and use of violence. That is very clear. And I do think there are people, and again, I've been reading comments you call it both ways, with people saying, and I'm just putting this out there, I say this is my own opinion, but I've seen it proposed by men in general, talking about why or they will or will not intervene. Black men obviously have a higher burden, if you will, of them becoming therefore the victims of violence if and when they do intervene. Not saying they shouldn't. I think it does add another layer of kind of how they think about approaching a situation that is, gone awry. I'm thinking about right here in South Florida. We've had a couple of shootings lately. One was up in Fort Lauderdale where a man tried to intervene. It was in a Walmart, and a man who was a former co-worker of a lady was coming after her with a gun, and a guy did intervene, and he lost his life. I think there's a contemplation that we need to be sensitive of, not to say I am telling anyone that they should act or not act, but that we have to recognize what's going on in today's society. Men are looking at certain situations and saying, is this a possible, situation that could cost me my life? And how should I approach it if I do get involved? I think that's a real contemplation that we should at least acknowledge is happening. Not to say it's right, not to say it's wrong, not to pass judgment on that. But I do think there are men who will feel that I have to look at a situation twice now and say, should I intervene? And if so, how? So that I preserve my own life. If this is not, a person that I know or complete stranger. Obviously, right is right and wrong is wrong. I'm just saying that some of the commentary I've been reading has brought forth that questioning by a lot of brothers as far as when it is appropriate and how much do you risk when you are intervening. And again, this is a multi-layered.
I get it. Trust me, I get it, Suzette. And I know we got to wrap up, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. I have seen domestic situations jump off, and I lie to you not. I have physically put myself in harm's way in some of these cases, right? And I was informed by older black men, man, you need to be careful. But it's like at the moment of a situation, I can't stand seeing no black man or no man beating on no woman. I don't care if it's a white woman or it's a Latino woman or it's a black woman. When you see that type of brutality, that does something to your thinking, to your heart. Like, you can't just be like, well, just because she shouldn't have. Man, nobody give up about none of that at the end of the day, man. If a man is beating on a woman and you are watching it, you have every duty to intervene as a man. I'm saying this as a man. You do not, and I get it, but you got to say something. At least say, hey, man, what you doing or something. Or you have to intervene in some way. So use the best of intelligence, but you got to do something. You can't just watch a woman getting beat down in the street like she an animal. And then you sitting there like, damn, man, what'd she do? Man, stop asking so many damn questions and do something. Get off your goddamn phone, man, and just do something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of seeing weakness. Look, this is the same thing when we saw a brother killed in New York City. Brothers go to the gym, but can't use a damn muscle sometimes. Because you're so weak here. And you weak here. But you want to walk around like you want to do something. Sit your ass down, man. You ain't gonna do nothing. If you watch a man beating down on your people like that, whether it's a black man or a woman, you ain't going to do nothing. I've seen small guys jumping into big frays because guess what? They have no fear in their heart. They have no fear. And that's how God blesses you to have. You come into a situation, small stature, but once you come into a situation with no fear and you got the presence of mind and you're doing the right thing, you will get the power to overcome any situation. You need to get that fear out your heart, man. Yeah. You need to get that. I'm not going to let nobody just beat down on a woman and just be like, man, she shouldn't have done that. Shit, that's great.
No, 100%. All violence against women, we do not condone it, or it should be, elevated to the point where people feel compelled, men and women, to intervene, right? To see somebody in distress, see somebody who, is about to be, violated in this type of way, say something, do something, try to call the police, do whatever you can within your means to interject. I just think in this specific case, as many are going to argue, what does that have to do with anything? I get that. It's wrong, right? At the base level, it's wrong. Yapping or whatever may have occurred or precipitated that, it's wrong, right? Pick up a brick and hit somebody in the head could have taken her life. It's wrong. It's absolutely deplorable. I'm looking at it also from the other lenses of the discussions I've seen. Why, if that is the truth, why not? And I wanted to get to the bottom of that. Yeah. But as you're saying, we do need this kind of principled approach across the board, that the rules of engagement lead us more so to act than not to act. I agree with that. And hopefully, absolutely, no violence is begetting violence, right? Don't instigate nothing. Don't put yourself in a position. However, it's not to be used as an excuse in this scenario. But I'm also kind of advocating for being, accountable in all parties, right? Those who stood by, those who were involved. Why did you do this? But again, I agree with your premise. It doesn't even matter. You shouldn't have done it in the first place, right? And I think we are looking at the societal acceptance of, well, this was justified, etc. Not saying that that's where I'm coming from. I'm just saying the discussions online have produced a lot of discussion about what happened before, what happened after, and why. So I think it's important that we kind of fill in some of the context just for informational purposes, so people can understand what actually we're hearing now and beyond the original video.
Absolutely. There is and I know we got to end this. There is a growing trend. We've heard the terminology toxic masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. But now there's a growing school of thought around what they're now termed as heroic masculinity. And for those who may not be familiar with this term, I would advise you to take a look at it. There are a number of, thought pieces that are being written about this. And this is where men see themselves as protectors, coming in to defend women, coming in to defend those who find themselves in a inferior position, not in no braggadocious type of way, but just coming in to protect. So there's a different school of thought. Yeah, we've been conditioned for toxic masculinity for years. Now we should be in an age of heroic masculinity, where we're jumping into the fray. And this is what we see with police officers, male police officers, firefighters, those who put their lives on the line. They're not asking questions. No firefighter say, well, how did the fire start? They just go right in and start saving lives, right? They ask questions after the fact. We have to get to that place with Black women. Otherwise, this divide is going to keep getting bigger and bigger, Suzette. And more important, going back to that comment that I read on Instagram, women are going to lose faith. Brothers, women are going to lose faith in our ability to protect them. Suzette, our time has been very well spent today.
Goodness gracious, and I want to shout out again. We have so much more we can say about this. Coco Goff, yes, let's go.
Hey, look, this has been every week. Every week you came on, we talked about Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yes,
we talked about Simone Biles. Now we got Coco Goff.
Let's go, Coco. Sorry to switch gears, but let's go, Coco. I'm so proud of her. As well as who beat TFO Shelton. As well, two brothers came out I think they came out to I think it was a West Coast song, like again talking about the face of tennis, the face of gymnastics, and how much it has changed. Thank the GOATs. You know, we can go back to Althea Gibson, let's go, Arthur Ashe, let's go, and right through to Serena and Venus and all the younger kids that they inspired who are now playing and taking the mantle. I just can't wait. First teenager to enter the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open. I'm just thinking about how they booed Serena. You remember that year when Serena was the favorite and they were cheering for the non-U.S. person? But see how far we've come, and looking at Coco doing it again at 19, stood up for herself in one of the matches before. I just had to mention her. She's already won in my eyes. So let's continue to cheer her on as well as the other Americans.
Absolutely, absolutely. My sister Suzette Speaks is always a pleasure. Always enjoy our discussions with you. Make sure y'all do y'all due diligence. Support Suzette Speaks on her platform with her show. She has already hit 5,000 subscribers. But guess what, y'all? She can use more. She can use a few more. So go to her show. There it is right there, Suzette Speaks Show. She gives you some of the latest news and not just the political news, the social justice news, but she talks about entertainment, arts, and culture just as much as we talk about it here on this platform. And y'all can support her. Just go to her YouTube page and follow her on social media. And of course, she's here on The Culture with us every Wednesday. And we're just so grateful to get through the hump day with her. So Suzette Speaks, thank you so much, sis.
Thanks, Culture Crew. Big up everybody. See you next week.
Talk to you soon. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for spending a little extra time with us this afternoon. Be sure to do your due diligence. Support us here at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website today. Download the app for free on all of your devices. And more importantly, show your support. If you enjoy the content, you enjoy being a part of the Culture Crew and having this space to have these discussions, your support means everything to us. So just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. And those are the various ways in which you can support us financially, blackstarnetwork.com. And of course, tell your friends and family about us and follow us on social media at Black Star Network. Also follow me, yours truly, at The Real Farajii on Instagram and I'm going to be found on Twitter, Facebook, on Threads at Farajii. And I would love to connect with you. I appreciate each and every one of you. I want to appreciate my team, Joel, Shannon, Maddie, Chris, Lise, and my man King Keenan for making us look and sound so good. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. 5th year anniversary for Big Brother Roland. I didn't say it yesterday. So congratulations to our big brother, our founder of Black Star Network, for doing it strong for 5 years straight and continuing the great work. So give your shout out to Brother Roland. And thank you to all of those who have supported us today here on the Black Star Network. I saw we had a number of people who have made their support on the becoming level 1 Bring the Phone fan club members. So thank you. Until tomorrow, folks, I look forward to reconnecting with you then. Have a great afternoon, wonderful evening, and talk to you soon. Peace.